All right, we'll call the meeting to order, and Becky, would you call the roll, please?
I sure will. Jim Sheenline,
Yes, here.
Tom Kitson,
Present.
Mike Book,
Yeah.
Nancy Naylor,
Present.
Jennifer Dallas.
Yep, and also we have Reed and Paul, and we've asked Jason to join us up here at the table. And anyway, Clay, got anything for us besides what's on the agenda? Didn't mean to catch you, mid-drink. That's the way it always happens for me. Okay. Okay. All right, Jeremy, you got anything for us before we get started? All right, just real quick before I hand it over to the real people. Just kind of, this is the first meeting. What we're here to accomplish today is we're gonna run through revenues, a high level, probably part of expenses. So this is kind of the first pass. We're going to have this is our first look of what next year is going to potentially look like. So we're probably one of the things we want to accomplish today is setting the assumptions on revenues. I'm sure Reed's got, and Paul's got the initial things of what we're going to look at. And these things, just like most of you have all been part of a budget process. The assumptions are everything, at the beginning. And then you pare down and you try to bring in reality into the assumptions, because sometimes assumptions are, you really don't know. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish. Then we'll have the hearings. We've got 3 days of hearings and 1 night. The 3 days are there in that first week in August. And we will go through and have the departments come in and they will do their ask. I encourage everybody, if there's something you don't understand of why something is in their budget that you're like, why is that there? Or how does that work? Please ask questions. That's what they're coming in for. And then, we go through their stuff line by line. And, if you have questions on a line, this is the opportunity for everybody, including you guys in the peanut gallery. If you guys don't know, I really encourage you, ask, because that's what we're here. If you don't ask, then nobody learns. And I'm a big believer in asking questions. So as every board that I've ever served on, where I asked a lot of questions. So anyway, speaking of which, do we have any questions before we get started? All right. Well, I will hand it over. Reed, we will get started.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for having us in today. Can you share my screen? Basically what I'm going to talk about though is on the sheets that you guys have, but I'll get started. So revenues, I think we probably need to start at our, highest proportion of general revenues and where it comes from. It's our property taxes. Right now, our assumptions are that we have 18 million in new construction coming on the rolls. That is an estimate from Jen at the moment. I don't think she has had time to do a very deep dive, and that will be what she will be working on in the upcoming months. For perspective, last year we had anticipated, I think, 45 million in new construction, which I think was a pretty substantial year compared to what we'd had in the past. Prior to that, I think it was like 6.5 million in new construction. And new construction is, it can basically double our levy. I mean, I think it basically doubled our levy amount last year because we were able to capture that new construction at the rate that we're charging all of the other existing property owners. We also already have our CPI number that we're going to be using from the state, which is 2.9. Last year, it was 3.4. I think in the previous 2 years, we were actually capped by 5%, because CPI was actually over 5%. So, that is tightening our, having less construction this year, and that tightening CPI number is going to reduce our property tax levy compared to, as an increase, right? Right now, it's going up about 5%. If factoring in that new construction, last year was probably closer to 6, because of that high new construction number, huh? Yeah, when we finally got, yeah. And again, we're gonna continue to refine that as we get closer, but that's kind of where we're at now. Basically, the big factor that can change is what that new construction number is. But so we're already kind of looking at a lower property tax levy for this year opposed to last year. One other factor with our property tax levy, I guess what we're looking at here is what is affecting county general. Our property tax levy includes other funds, not just what goes into county general. We're PTEL tax capped, right? So we can only levy for a certain dollar amount above what we did last year. So any changes in those other buckets that aren't county general affect the amount that we can get in county general. And most of them did not change, or change very slightly, like the highway tax levy. That changed very little from last year in terms of what Dave's request is. And I think basically all of the others stayed almost exactly the same in terms of dollar amount. The one that we probably need to consider changing and increasing is the one for veterans assistance. There's the likelihood that we will be getting or needing a full-time person in there. And so that fund has a decent fund balance at the moment. I think it's like over 200,000. So, technically we could probably not raise our levy for that and be able to absorb additional costs next year. But at some point in time, that fund balance is going to run out. And so then we will need to start levying for that in our property tax levy. So I think right now, just for comparison's sake, last year we levied about $37,000 for veterans assistance. This year, I think I have about 87,000 in there. So that $50,000 increase is going to lower what we can levy for in county general. I guess any questions on where we stand from property taxes? Again, this will continue to be refined as we go throughout the process. Any major updates, I'll let you guys know. But that's kind of where we're at. That's our largest source of revenue, almost 50% of our budget. But, we're probably looking at a slightly lower increase than we have in previous years. Our next buckets kind of our state revenue, our sales tax and income tax. I'm probably being a little conservative in those numbers right now because they're showing a decrease. What we don't know is how use tax is going to shake out. I think I mentioned at our finance committee meeting last week that I was reaching out to the state to see if they could give us anything. They didn't have anything great for us in terms of understanding what's going to happen with use tax. I believe the office that we were asking said that they don't really get notified on when major retailers are getting reclassed, and they don't know if there are any coming up. And that reclassification, isn't necessarily, they're taking something that was classified as use tax and reclassifying it to sales tax. And on the whole, that generally will hurt us because we likely won't have as much nexus as the larger populated areas. And so we're probably going to lose a little bit in terms of the use and sales tax. Our sales tax will go up, but it probably won't go up quite as much as the way use tax is going down, just based on how they calculate that. That use tax, it was collected at a statewide level and then distributed based on population size. Now it's going, if something gets reclassified, it's looking at where is it being shipped to. And if that retailer has nexus there, then that district is going to be where those sales tax dollars go. So, yes.
Can you explain the difference?
I've looked at the definition from the state and it is not,
Yeah,
always
most
super
of that,
clear.
almost think of it as the Wayfair tax. Use tax was basically internet sales, right? Sales where you weren't at a brick and mortar facility, but you were buying something and that place was collecting a sales tax. They were collecting basically Illinois state sales tax. Because if they didn't have a nexus or a place in this specific zip code, they couldn't collect the local taxes. But what was happening is they would pool all of that collection, say in Springfield, and you'd have a bucket of money, and then they would spread that out because they didn't know where to send it to, right? So they'd spread it out based on population. Well, Lee County being, 35,000 versus Cook County at, 7 million, whatever it is. We were getting this, in essence, though, we were getting a benefit from that because you were probably getting a lot of sales tax that was being generated from the urban areas, but being spread out to the state. What's happening is the state is now taking major retailers and saying, no, they have a very specific nexus on each one of these zip codes. So when we get that sales tax in from that major retailer, we're going to push it to those zip codes directly. So our use tax, as it was figured, is going down. But our sales tax, reciprocal sales tax, is not going up as much because, as Reed kind of pointed out, we're, urban versus rural area, right? So we don't have as many people buying as the urban areas do. And
we don't have as much retailers with nexus here.
correct, yeah.
Nexus.
Nexus.
Like a physical location in
yeah.
a district.
Yeah, brick and mortar, if you will, in the location. So, we may have a Walmart here, but we don't have the Target, the Home Depots, all of those. I'll call them the bigger retailers that they're able to now go, nope, that goes specifically to here, boom, 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 boom. So that's getting slowly weaned away from us. And what the state is telling us is, oh no, you'll see an increase in your sales tax because we're pushing it through to true sales tax instead of use tax. But our problem is we don't have those places that we get that sales tax. It's going other places. So, and if we don't have it, but somebody in our area is buying it, well, it still goes into that same pool that gets spread out to the whole state. So we're kind of on the short end of the stick on that. But use tax, you can kind of figure as the internet tax or the way what used to be called the Wayfair tax because of the ruling from, was that 20 years ago? I can't even think of how long ago that was.
Well, the net effect is we've lost revenue, that maybe you can argue, you can make the argument, I'm sure other folks would make the argument that we were getting revenue that we really didn't earn.
Yeah, as I said,
And now it's being readjusted, but
we
it's
were getting
still,
subsidized a little on the use tax side of it.
right. But now that subsidy is going away and we're having to do with, we got to make up for that somehow or the other. So,
I will say that our just raw sales tax, right? So if you're looking at specifically public safety tax, right? Because that one should not really be affected by this
No.
in a sense, right? That's basically sales at brick and mortar places already here in Lee County. That is going up and a lot stronger than we would have, I guess, expected last year, right? So on the whole, our sales tax in Lee County is going up. But this adjustment is playing a piece, you know, kind of hard to judge at the moment. I mean, looking at just the last few months of use tax, whereas previous years we're probably getting close to 400,000 or 500,000. If, you know, based on the last 5 months, we might not get 90,000 next year if those numbers stay true. But we don't necessarily have all the information about, are those 5 straight months of adjustments? Because basically when they do those adjustments, they're looking back to the state's fiscal year, which started July 1st, right? And readjusting for all of those months, you know, so July 1st of 2024. And we saw our first adjustment right in January, I believe, of 2025. And so that was, you know, huge decrease, but it was because it was one major retailer and it was 5 months of activity. And so I don't know, we don't know if they're continuing to, like, every month there's these adjustments, or if these are going to be our true numbers going forward. And I was hoping our contact at the state would be able to tell us that, but he said he does not get notified of when those happen and what a future schedule looks like. So it's a little hard to say where use tax is going to end up even for this year, and it's making it hard to predict where it's going to be next year. You know, if we see throughout the rest of this year that they're really consistent with what they've been for the last 5 months, yeah, we're probably not going to see, you know, probably not going to get to $100,000 in use tax where we might have had 400,000 or 500,000 in previous years. But our you know, sales tax numbers should go up, but I don't think it will be a 1-for-1.
Excuse me for a second, I got a call that I got to take.
Yep. I mean, our other state revenue source, the income tax, also seeing a little bit of a decrease, and that would be, I mean, our income tax number is made up of both income tax and personal property replacement tax, PPRT. I think, as everybody knows, that has been decreasing significantly over the last few years. The state has continued to make adjustments to the way that they are calculating that and what our share is. I don't know, was it before I got here, but 4 or 5 years ago, we were getting 1.5, almost $2 million. This year, I think we budgeted 675, and we're probably not going to hit that number.
Which tax are we talking?
So this would
It's
be,
personal property.
it's in the income tax line. So in this, what you're seeing there is a pivot table of that. But he can get you to that specific, but personal property replacement tax was part of an income tax that was developed when the Illinois Constitution was revamped back in the 70s. And businesses still pay that. People, the public does not. But they are slowly bleeding that away and, you know, bringing that back up to the 20th century of income tax. Well, that PPRT has gone from, like we said, maybe 1.5 million in cut in half down to 700 to 600,000. And again, the notifications that for this year coming up, we won't get until August, so another month yet. But it does appear it'll go down another 25%. So for the last 2.5, 3 years, it's gone down consistently about 30% a year.
Personal property tax is a tax on business.
Correct. It's
There's no such thing as personal property tax.
not for individuals,
Right.
not for individuals, but it is for a business. It's part of the rewrite.
Against inventory or what?
No. So I guess the name personal property
yeah.
tax is a little bit misleading.
Yeah.
For clarification, what some states still do tax based off of that. What that is, personal property is anything that's not real property. Real property are buildings, stuff fixed to land, whereas personal property are vehicles, forklifts, stuff like that. Some states still do charge those types of taxes. Illinois does not. They used to, they reorganized, and basically this personal property replacement tax is just, hey, we used to be doing this. We're gonna tax it differently going forward, but this is meant to replace what used to be brought in by personal property taxes. But it is not something that is, you know, on someone's individual income taxes. It would be business taxes that's where that was collected. And that's where personal property taxes would have been levied too.
Assessed on the assessed value of any piece of equipment,
Mhm.
even is used.
That's if you actually have personal property taxes. We don't.
No,
Right, yes.
business does.
Business.
Yeah, but that's not, right, but we got rid of that and now it's just the replacement taxes. So there's just probably a percentage of added into someone's business income tax that says this is for personal property taxes. Or what used to be personal property taxes.
My sister's in the hospital, not Diana. Her sister.
I believe so. I would ask a tax accountant per se
I was gonna
to,
say, we'll probably have to ask somebody at the state level what the true calculation is, if they could give you that, but in essence, yes, but I don't want to tell you 100%.
Well, I just mean for states, you know, what you said, they're not evaluating, they're not doing evaluations. It's
no.
just a-
that's how it,
it's a- yeah.
yes,
It
that's how it
used to
used to
be.
be done.
Okay.
And for states that still have it, that is how it is
Right.
done.
But it's part of the state business's income tax now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's a percentage.
I believe so.
So if their income increases, the percentage, then the amount increases.
Yes, what I think is, I don't know if that has really changed. I think the formula that the state is using to decide how much government municipalities get versus what they get to keep potentially is changing.
Okay.
And actually up there on the screen, you can see in 2022, we had almost $1.6 million worth of revenue from PPRT. In 2023, it was down to 1.4, but then in 24, it dropped to 800,000. And this year in 25, we might hit 500,000, a little over maybe. So maybe a little over 500. I think we budgeted 675. So, you know, run rate says 620. But it's not a consistent dollar amount. So you really, you know, using run rate doesn't necessarily work as well.
Yeah.
So
They combine certain months and some months it's just 1 month's worth of payments and some months you get nothing.
Yeah.
So,
So
It really doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
yeah, so this coming budget cycle of 26, we've estimated 500,000. Again, you know, that says, that's based on just information from the state in that they're telling us, yeah, it's going to come down again. They can't tell you how much.
Mhm.
And so we know it's not going to be the 600. So let's give ourselves some room for error there. And we'll call it 5 right now.
Right.
So that's the two lines that he's showing you. One is true state income tax, which is both business and individuals. You know, we get 2.4, but then when you add the 500, that's the 2.9 you're seeing in your paperwork in front of you.
Mhm.
So again, these are, you know, these are estimates as we talked
Yeah.
about before.
and our contact did say there will be more information coming out about PPRT in August. So they will send out an email. And so we'll have a better understanding of,
Basically, same type of guidance we got last year.
you know, they'll give a guesstimate of percentage drop. I think that, I don't know, would you say that over the last 2 years when they gave us the estimated drop, it was,
It's actually worse, but
yeah.
yeah, because we got an estimate of like 30% drop and it actually dropped 45. Yeah,
Right.
so.
Right. Thanks for the guidance.
Yeah.
And this is PPRT for businesses in our county, or this is
No.
statewide and it's divided out like
Yeah.
like the other.
Correct,
Yes,
correct.
yes.
It's statewide. This is not Lee County businesses paying
Right.
into this, but this is,
The state.
yeah, yeah.
And then we get a percentage based on population again?
Yes, it's very vague, but, it is. And I don't mean to be vague here as an answer,
I mean, the formula
but there's
can
no,
be very goofy.
yeah, there's no one person in Springfield that will actually give you the true calculation. I think Jim even talked to people in Springfield before. We have found a good contact. The guy is very consistent in getting back to us, even on the same day, you know, so that was an amazing feat that we found somebody. But his information is limited. So,
I mean,
Well,
the
one of the
formulas-
things that we know that reduced our PPRT was the salaries, and I hate to point you out, Clay, but this is true.
absolutely.
When the dollars, when they switched over the sheriff to have funding by the state for the sheriff's salary, that came out of that pool. So it reduced the dollars that came out, that went into the pool to be divvied up. They took that amount of dollars for the sheriff's salary out of that pool. I think one of the more controversial things is, and I don't know, did we confirm that the CTA increased, or the makeup for the CTA came out of that pool as well? That's one of the things that's been bandied about, that, you know, those CTA dollars came out of that pool. So we don't know for that for sure, but that's one of the suspicions. Also, there's been consistent legislation to do the same thing with the county clerk salary and potentially the circuit clerk salary, or basically all the constitutional offices in the counties, and do the same thing. Well, that will reduce PPRT all the more. So basically, makes us feel good that the state is going to do these salaries for us. But the thing of it is, it comes out of our hide regardless.
Yeah, because the state says they'll pay 2/3.
Or it's actually, it's worse, because I hate to, these officers got raises that some of these counties couldn't afford. And that's why they did it, because but that was a mechanism, but it ended up coming out of the counties anyway.
So it comes out of the general fund, the county would pay those salaries. Now are going to be, the state's going to pay them. They're going to take them out of this account.
A portion of them.
Yeah,
Portion.
they pay the state pays 2/3. So, and again, Clay, sorry, I'm going to use you
Yeah,
as an
you're here.
example.
It also pays the state's attorney and the public defenders.
Correct,
But
correct.
Charlie's not here.
Yeah.
I guess we should pile on him. He's not here.
Yeah. Well, the most recent one was a change in the sheriff's salary, where they said the state mandated you must pay the sheriff 80% of what the state's attorney is being paid. And we'll pay 2/3 of that. The state will. You, the county, have to pay 1/3 of it. Oh, great. This will save us money. The only problem is, as Jim points out, but they took it out of the pool that they were already giving to us. And yes, and so then that shrank that pool, which means that money went down as well. So, and again, some of the change as well is ARPA money. In the 2021 and 22 years, when everybody was flush with cash, they made a lot of money with ARPA money. We got that money back in terms of income tax. We don't have that anymore. That money dried up. It's gone. And now you're seeing the effect of that as well. That pool is also drying up, which means that's why we're getting less and less as well. So there's a portion of it it was the perfect storm. The federal government just threw tons of money at everybody, caused whatever, but, and then the salary increases that changed that calculation as well too. And he's right, there also is legislation for every constitutional officer, including me, that they would say, you've got to pay your treasurer 80% or 70% of whatever officer they want to say. at a base and we'll pay 2/3 of it. Well, again, that's probably going to come out of your PPRT.
And if they use the state's attorney, the state's attorney's salary is really set by the state. So
is.
prior to change for the sheriff, right? That was being set by the state, and all of the other offices were being set by the county itself. As if they move forward with moving all of those, then all of our elected official offices will basically be set by the state because the state sets the state's attorney's salary.
So this applies to DuPage County, Cook County, Lee County, all the same?
Yes,
Yes.
102 counties in Illinois.
And the state's
Well-
attorney is paid at a different, the same rate in each county?
No. No. So each, and again, that's a calculation based on population and maybe a few other smaller items, but it's mostly population, because if you look at other counties that are somewhat consistent with the population of Lee County and you look at their state's attorney salary, very similar to ours. Very, very similar.
I think we might get a little more because we have
We have
the
the
state prison here.
We have the state
which
prison, but then
causes more work for.
but the state gives us an extra $3,600 a month for that work that hasn't changed since 1986, I believe, when that started coming in.
And I guess, you know, we keep
We talked
talking
to
about how these,
Representative-
some of
we
these
talked to
things are
Representative Fritz
calculated or
about
our
this.
share. And unfortunately, it's legislation based, not, you know, like, oh, everyone should get a proportionate ratio based off of their population. Like, a lot of it is, all right, well, Cook County gets $3 million off the top because they have these things. And then the collar counties will get an X percentage or whatever. And then they'll divvy up everything else to everyone, you know, so like, it's not just a straight, oh, everybody's population is this percentage, you get this, right? There are like caveats in those statutes that say, nope, this district, you know, this district gets a flat amount off the top, this percentage. And so some, yes, are easy that are just a population base, like that use tax was. Here you go. But the way some of those distributions and formulas are, it's not always just a real easy proportionate, oh, you all get this. There's, no, money goes here first, here first, here first, and then whatever's left is what you get.
But clearly, rates that have been set in the eighties shouldn't apply to today. Whatever rate
Agreed.
somebody
Yes,
set,
yes.
it shouldn't be them. That doesn't apply, shouldn't.
Correct. So if somebody can talk to,
Ariano, Representative Fritz.
there we go.
Yeah, and you know, as we go forward and we see where some of our numbers are, as we get closer to the end of the year, right, you know, we'll have a better understanding of whether or not they're gonna be up a little or down a little. Right now, I would say these numbers are probably on the conservative side. And if things keep trending the way that they've been trending, I think I would probably revise these up a little bit. But some of it, you know, we just don't know. There could be a recession and that will impact our county sales tax numbers, right? People will be buying less. So our county sales tax will be less.
But I would also, the caveat to the conservative side of the numbers are, there's no white horse here. There's no $1 million that we can add based on run rates, right? When we get more consistent. What he's talking about is, you know, at your total level of 17.4, it might go to 17.5 or 6. You're not going to move the needle a lot. So don't hope or wish for, oh, maybe we'll get better. I mean, we're conservative, yes, but we're also trying to be very true.
So were you going to get into the fines and fees?
Yeah, we can.
Yep. So, because that was a number that surprised me a little bit.
Yep.
So,
I think, you know, the number at the top level probably doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, there's a kind of quite a bit that goes into that. So we can kind of look at it by where those fines and fees are coming from.
And you're under just general, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we can kind of go through the list. Gaming pull tabs, you know, you know, we can kind of see where we've been at the previous years, where we're estimated this year based on run rate, what we budgeted for this year, you know, based on kind of that information. I don't think 75 is all that, you know, consistent with last year, and we're, you know, within $3,500, $4,000 of what our estimated was last year, and there's no, I guess, anticipation for it to go up or down from what we have been receiving. County clerk fees, you know, same, you know, we estimated 585 last year. That's our budgeted amount. Our run rate this year's 580. We're pretty close. You know, some of that is determined by the housing market. We've continued to see sales, of, you know, houses are still moving and still moving at elevated prices. So I guess we don't have any thing one way or the other to say that it's going to be different. I guess let's talk about one that is relatively high. Oh, and it looks like maybe Amy didn't have that one. So yeah, go below. The circuit clerk fees, those have been trending downward. Or the thought process is that they're trending downward due to bond fees, that due to the Safety Act, right?
Yeah. No Bond Safety Act is finally coming home to roost. It took a few years. I know we were been talking about this for the last 3 as they were discussing it, but you know, consistently we can now see that it's starting to affect us.
You know, it hasn't fallen out of bed. That was where I was going. You know, because we really thought, I thought,
It was
we
gonna go to
talked
zero.
about our hit being 400,000.
Yeah,
And
but
it really hasn't fallen out of bed like we kind of thought, but
Not
it is
yet.
not yet. No, I get it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I think
we're still in the
finally-
process. but-
yeah, I think we're finally starting to see that. And maybe it's a trickle instead of a waterfall, but it's consistently going down, which in a time of, you know, all types of prices going up and inflation going up, you would think you would at least see a stable number, but we're not. We're seeing it going down. So, and bonds and such aren't driven by inflation or anything, but what I'm saying is, as that stuff goes away, there's just no money there for those fees.
On the whole, I think we expect our fines and fees to be relatively consistent. The one kind of larger drop here is zoning fees. And I think we anticipated that. There's been some legislation that caused how we did some of those zoning fees to change, where before we would get to collect a pretty substantial fee up front, and we would have expenses related to those projects, but that they would just kind of come out of our regular expenses. Now, going forward, there is a fee. It's a smaller amount, but then what we have is call it the consulting fund, and that's what our resolution states. But depending on the project size, we'll ask for a certain amount of money. I think what our resolution says is 100,000, but I think our department heads kind of adjust that based on what the actual project size is going to be. But we'll ask basically for a deposit of that $100,000. And then expenses related to the project that the county incurs will come out of that bucket of money. And then at the end of the project, if there is anything left, we give that back to the project.
You call this zoning? Is that what you call it?
Well, these are fees through the zoning department. So let's say you a big wind farm that comes up or solar farm that comes up. Well, now in the past, what we used to do is we would ask for permitting fees, right?
Right.
And those would be ours to keep, spend as we need, and we'd have expenses against that. Today, with the new legislation, we can ask for an upfront deposit, and I almost call it like an escrow, because we can't it's an agency fund. It's not our money yet. But we use that for hearing purposes, road construction, different things. Once you show the expense you've had against it, now you can use that and say, here's my revenue, but it basically covers your expense. If there was any money left over, we have to give that back to the company
Right.
that initially paid us. So it's one of those deals where you can't really show it as income or revenue
Yeah.
because you haven't earned it.
In a previous life, I called it a developer's fee.
Yes,
And it was a
yes.
deposit,
And
and
it's,
then your legal fees and all your staffing costs and so forth were set against it. And then, like you said, at the end, if there's a balance, or if you've expended more than what you need, then they gotta pay you more.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
but in the past, if we didn't have the expenses against that, we got to keep that money still.
Are you allowed to put that into an interest-bearing account?
Correct. But some of those contracts are written such that the company that paid it also gets any of that interest that's left over.
Are the enterprise fees that the county gets for development included in this?
Enterprise fees.
So enterprise zone?
Yeah, no, like the, off your property tax, the
No,
EZ
when,
zone,
when,
or-
yeah, so when a project comes to the county and they want to be in the enterprise zone, there's a fee that they pay. The developer pays a fee for the enterprise zone benefit.
That's-
That's not in that,
That's, no,
that
I
fee
was gonna
fund.
say, that's not in there. I've never seen that in there.
And do we have any like only county related enterprise zones? I mean, usually
Those are.
like those are
City.
done by like the city, right? The
Munis-
city municipality will set up an enterprise zone. Do we have some?
Well, the Lee Ogle, those funds should probably flow into the Lee Ogle.
They do, but they are not accounted for in these zoning fees here.
Right.
Correct. And they're not. Yeah, I don't know that we have ever seen those, to be honest with you. I don't. know
And
that I've
of
ever
course,
seen
once they
those.
apply and they pay the fee, then they're entitled to the tax abatement schedules that go with that, which you all participate in. The county participates in the tax abatement. It's just the question comes to my mind now is whether or not the county shouldn't participate in some of the revenue from that because you're also you're giving them a benefit.
Yeah, I get that. I think that the revenue's on the other side, and I believe that the zone keeps the fee structure, or the fees. So, and it goes back into their financials.
Yeah, it does. And there oftentimes is an excess amount of money in there for what they use.
Like building permit fees are they included in that zoning line item?
So
Correct.
yes, they would be. We haven't adjusted for some of the things that we think might be coming down the pipe here this coming fiscal.
Do we want to talk about that a little bit on high level here and what we're thinking?
Yeah, we can, and it depends on when they hit, because we're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with so again, for this conversation is revolving around some of the large solar projects that we have within the county. Those building permit fees could be pretty significant. Still trying to calculate what that might look like for sure. Also, when those might hit. So right now, we're working through some conversations with the state's attorney's office, as well as a couple of the developers' attorneys, to figure out how we want to structure some of these, because it's going to be a little bit different. Earlier, the request is going to be a little bit different than what we have seen in the past. But those could be with the handful of projects we have, those could be in excess of $1 million. So we're just trying to understand what that fully can look like, and nothing is exact right now. So it's hard to put numbers in there when we don't have a definite.
And it is a possibility that
That they
that
don't-
could go, that one, it doesn't happen at all, or two, it's pushed to 27, 28, right? I mean.
So yes, and that's the issue. One of the developments possibly could pull permit this year still. It could be next year. One could be next year or 27. Also, with the changing legislation,
You might not.
they might not be here. So, we don't want to put numbers in there for fluff. We want to make sure that these are real numbers, and we understand what that looks like, and trying to forecast that's a little bit difficult. And, the changing, market at the moment.
and like you said, could be 26, could be this year, could be next year, right? I would rather not plan for it in our budget. But then when it happens, the mechanism that I would say that we have is, well, that's basically unanticipated revenue. You know, say it still happens this year, right? We didn't budget for it this year. We got unanticipated revenue above and beyond what we had expected. If we have expenses that we want to incur because we got that revenue, all we need to do is a budget adjustment, which we can do because we got that unanticipated revenue. So all it would take would be for us to come to a finance committee meeting, say, we got an extra $1 million that we didn't expect to have. We would like to incur some expenses related to that this year to increase our budget. Here's a budget amendment, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a neutral adjustment because our revenue went up and our expenses went up. So no net, no net effect to budget.
Wow.
That would be the way that you would handle that.
Does the state of Illinois have a tax on solar revenues? With the revenue that the landowner receives between $1,000, $2,000 an acre, and of course, it's for 25, 35 years. Is the state assess a utility tax on solar?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they would, they
Don't
would
give me
have to,
ideas.
they would have to, that property owner would have to show that income on their tax return, right? So, yeah, we will see it in income taxes. Whether or not there's an additional tax that the state's levying on that, I
I
don't
mean, there's a
know.
utility tax on just about every utility.
Yeah, I don't know.
But is it charged at the generation or is it charged at the end user?
And then is that utility tax come back to the governing body here or does it go to the
Well,
state?
there, you've got your cell phone bills, there's a tax that's assessed to that, your gas bill, there's a utility tax there. There's all kinds of utility taxes. This idea that solar has become such a big thing, why isn't there a tax on that? That local government could tap
Well,
into?
and does the local government enact that or is that a state tax?
Yeah, I don't
Well-
think the state currently imposes a utility tax on solar project systems, but, and I don't know, again, that would look like from a county, level, local government level to impose a tax like that. I mean, I'm not saying it's out of the question, but is that, that's.
I guess
further
I would,
discussion.
the only thing that I would say is the taxes you mentioned are taxed on the end user, not the generation, not the person generating the energy, right? It's the
And
person
besides
u-
that,
it's
that's
the person
a-
using the energy.
That,
Right,
that
so-
utility tax, as I understand it, that goes to the state. That doesn't come to the local,
Right.
Taxing districts anyway.
Right.
Well,
That doesn't come back to us.
Cities get plenty of it.
On the utility tax?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
There- I
the
mean,
county
the City of
doesn't.
Rochelle gets a tremendous amount of utility tax money.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
I don't think
Yeah.
that matters.
Hmm.
I think there's something to research there.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. Because as of right now, my understanding, with the benefit that the county receives from the solar and the wind would be the permit fees, well, it used to be the zoning fees that we would charge, then it's the building permits and they didn't take that away from us, did they? And then the increase of EAV, which is set on a per megawatt basis. And then that actually depreciates over 20 years.
What about the income?
The income that,
There's no tax assessment.
other than what is derived from the income tax, from the various entities that are leasing that property.
Their income would be taxed
Right.
accordingly.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Just, I want to encourage Ryan and Dean, I know Clay will ask questions, but don't hesitate to ask questions like Jason is. If there's something you don't understand, please ask, because you guys will be voting on this at some point. Right. We need your involvement, so don't hesitate, okay?
Yeah, briefly, it looks like that the state does not give municipalities do not share or reimburse municipality, utility tax. So that would be a tax imposed by the municipality themselves or the local government that they're receiving.
And isn't there a natural gas tax that is shared with local government?
Nothing that we're receiving. So I don't, I mean, you're asking questions that we haven't really divulged into in the past. Doesn't mean that they're not things we shouldn't be researching. But, again, like Rochelle, probably they have their own municipal tax that they impose. That's what they're receiving and collecting.
Well, Nicor, of course, isn't part of Rochelle.
No, I get that. But I'm just saying from the other side of it. Dixon may have that, I don't know. And it might be a separate agreement that they have set up with Nicor. I'm not sure.
What about cell phones?
Oh, you get the 911.
That's different. Yeah, so we do have a 911 collection that we get back from the state for cell phones.
Well, we don't get it, right? That is
Correct.
technically not, E911 is a separate entity.
That's right.
From us.
The
And
ETSB does.
that's something set by the state. That's not something set by anything here locally, right? The state says X amount of dollars per cell phone bill is segregated off for 911 facilities. My understanding from talking with Shelley that the state police takes a portion off the top and then the rest of it gets distributed out to the 911 facilities. And that is, I mean, again, our ETSB is a separate entity from the county. We work together, the county provides all of the employees to run, not all, but a lot of the telecommunicators to run ETSB. So there's a partnership there, but those funds that 911 receives is not enough to run the 911 organization and have those employees all on staff. So,
And you'll see that when we get to the ETSB, you'll see that our share of what we pay, plus the way we work here in the county is we share expenses also with the city of Dixon. And so you'll see all that.
and other municipalities
and
that
other
use
municipalities.
the services that E ETSB provides.
Right. To help defray some of our expenses.
I have a question on the fines and fees.
Yep.
How are they set and how often are they reviewed?
I mean, yeah.
Well, so the department heads, and I'll start with, say, like Nancy Peterson down in the clerk's office, right? She goes through and says, hey, consistently, this is the cost of booking a deed, right? Or recording a deed. And they can review that. She'll bring it to the board to say, hey, I'm currently, and I'm going to use fictitious numbers here. I'm currently at $10, but I think we need to jump to 15. Then the board votes on it and processes that and says yes or no to increase them. How often are they reviewed? They could be reviewed as early, once a year or once every 5 years. It just
Well,
depends.
and we
on-
also review them every month.
We,
In your
Well, in
packet.
terms,
Yeah.
yeah, no, but in terms of, I think Jennifer's question, and correct me if I'm wrong, is, hey, how often do you look at what you charge and should
Oh,
you be charging something
Right,
different?
exactly. In comparison to other counties, I mean, obviously we look at the
Correct.
budget annually. I assume
Yeah.
there would be a process for
Yeah,
these things,
so-
but I'm hearing maybe not.
No,
No.
there's not a formal, hey, I want to look at your charges that you charge for services, right? And is that consistent with your costs or is that consistent with, neighboring counties and, somebody similar than us? Is there a formal process? None that I know of, and I don't know, Jeremy, if you've seen any.
so it really, I mean, we have conversations with the department heads often about their fines and fees. Like building and zoning is ongoing. We are constantly reviewing those, making sure that we're current, and trying to understand what other counties are doing. We do that across the board recently. Last year, the sheriff's department updated, some fines and fees as well. I mean, so there is an ongoing process that does, as Paul said, comes then to the board for review, vote, and then moving forward because it has to be implemented through ordinance change, right? So most of them, some of them, not all of them, like the building and zoning fee structure. We're working through that with the committees that are involved with that and the staff. And then as that comes through, we could implement some of those changes without actually board approval. It just depends if it's if it's in via ordinance or not. So again, it's an ongoing process, and I think we're reviewing them constantly. Now, can there be something that's more of a, biannual review of these that is formal? Sure. But I will say the department heads are pretty good at being diligent on where they're at, what our other counties are doing, what other departments are doing, and making sure that we're comparable and staying up to date.
And I would say also some of them are completely out of our control. They're set by state mandate and
Yeah.
there's no change. I mean,
The
you're.
circuit clerk and even some of the fees that the treasurer's office can charge are locked through state statute. So, and what I can charge for some of that stuff.
I mean, the interest on late.
My
is that-
penalties, which is, I think you do have real estate tax penalties up there, right?
Yeah.
So those are state statute driven that said, hey, the day after a due date for the next 30 days, it's 1.5%. 60 days, it's 3%. It'll go up, that, but those are locked in. Those are, I can't change that.
And I think they've even
And the
got-
circuit clerk is kind of similar in that judicial side of it kind of runs that.
And
pushes it.
I think they even have like your duplicate bill fees that the state statute is like, you can charge up to $5 and you can't charge anything more until they change the statute. So.
What about delinquencies? People who don't pay their bills, don't pay their taxes. How are those collected?
So
yeah.
in terms of like property tax,
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Or-
I've noticed in the paper sometimes there's this long list of people that don't pay. And then eventually, how does it get made up to the government?
yeah. So every October, my office, along with Nancy's office, we do what's called a tax sale. So anybody who has not paid by the end of October, basically we're selling a lien against the property. So you have a tax buyer who comes in and pays that tax bill. So they pay all of the fines and fees and the tax, which then gets distributed out to the governing body. So they get their money. And in that process, it's called a redemption. The property owner has up to 3 years to pay that back, but they also are paying interest and fees that are accumulating significantly during that time, to where you could pay double the value of your property tax over that course of a year or two, in terms of, your redemption, meaning you paid it back, you paid off the lien, you've
Are
taken
all
that.
those tax bills bought?
For the most part, well, here, I'm going to say yes, but we do have what's called the scavenger or the trustee property taxes. Those are the ones that none of the tax buyers wanted. So it goes to our trustee, and actually Joseph Meyer is our trustee, but they work basically on Lee County's behalf. Those are, we don't exchange dollar value until the property is redeemed or sold in a tax auction. And so what happens there is most of those are dilapidated properties, or I'm going to say the Woodhaven properties. So you get an adjustment at the end of the year as a governing body that says, hey, we didn't collect $10,000 worth of property tax, so you're going to see a little bit less in your levy than what you had anticipated. But the makeup of that is the very next year when somebody pays it off, hey, you're going to see an extra amount because they
I
paid
guess
this
my
off.
question was, is the county eventually made whole?
Correct. There's 132 governing or taxing bodies in the county. 132, 133, and they are all made whole by the time we're done. Yes.
132 in Lee County?
Yes.
Just Lee County.
The only time that we wouldn't necessarily get all of the property tax back would be in that scavenger
Yeah.
auction, right? If it sells for
Less.
less than
The property tax.
the
value.
property tax value,
Got it.
then we wouldn't get it all back. But yes,
We're made whole. Yeah.
we are generally made whole. Anything that was sold in that property tax lien sale, we're basically made whole. But and just to clarify, the way that those property tax buyers win a property is by bidding an interest rate. They bid against each other based on what interest rate they want to charge. So they start at 9 and work their way down to, if it's farmland or something where they really want to own it at the end, they might bid 0. We're made whole based on the property tax and the penalties that we have charged up to that point. But after something is sold, the property tax owner incurs that interest rate that the tax buyer won the bid on. We don't see any of that.
My comment on this at this point is that this is why we have these guys. Because as small a county as we are, the complexity and the moving parts. I mean, when you think 132, Paul's job and whoever's in that treasurer's job is to make sure that those 132 taxing districts get their money and get it timely and right. So what we ask these guys to do is not easy. And
Just to,
appreciate what they do.
yeah. So, I mean, just so I know there's the 7.9 million that we have here in county general, but theoretically, we would probably levy somewhere closer to 9 million, depending on those buckets. We'll collect this year, what, 91 million dollars? 9 of it's gonna be
10%.
ours, 10% is gonna be ours, but the rest is going to get distributed to those 132 tax.
131 tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other, yeah.
Yeah.
Any more questions on the fines and fees? Okay.
Service income, that's probably another one that would be best kind of looked at individually. I think the one that I think deserves pointing out, that's a pretty significant increase this year. Why am I not seeing it? The public safety reimbursement for some of the, I know you've, over the last, or at least the time since I've been here, done some renegotiating as well as bringing on some new municipalities that want our services to provide deputies in their area for certain, each municipality is different, but certain time, as well as for the community college providing a resource officer. And over the last 18 months, you've reorganized some of those contracts, increased kind of what our true costs are for those individuals. And so we are seeing a larger amount in there this year. So
This is 340.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to be well above the budgeted 2025 number. Most of our municipalities pay on a monthly basis, but we do have one that's going to make a annual payment here coming up. So we're going to see, we didn't know exactly what those were going to be when we were putting this together last year, but we do have some better understanding coming forward. So I don't know if you want to talk about, how those are going or anything, but yeah.
Oh, they all appear to be going quite well,
Yeah.
Between Paw Paw, Ashton Franklin, Sauk Valley College. So they seem to be very happy with the service we're providing.
I assume this requires you to hire more staff.
It did. It did require us, once we took Ashton Franklin Center on, it did require hiring another deputy.
But you planned in your contracts with those government entities for that, such that you could cover your costs,
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we did a portion of squad car, divided up over 4 years. So yeah, we tried to have them pay their fair share.
Correct, correct.
I mean, is it a wash?
Yeah, I would say it's close. I mean, we may be picking up some, but there's also the benefit, as Clay points out, you have like the Ashton, Franklin Grove, I think Clay, and correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, they wanted a consistent 20 hours a week from a deputy. So between the two, that was 40, but you actually work 48. So we were gaining 8 hours of a person to cover other areas of the county, correct?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, it's like not a set 20, right? So, I mean, if you have, it's not 8 to 5 every day that.
Correct.
they're
There's
gonna be
no
there, right? So
pattern
if-
that they
and
can
if-
identify.
Right, and if there is something that happens elsewhere in the county where additional assistance is needed, right? That person can come off and help. So there's economies of scale of having an additional person available where you're probably never going to be able to assign a true value on what that benefit of having that extra person is, but we are getting some. So. I guess the one here that I have highlighted, with no value currently, is the state of Illinois reimbursement for our public defender, wages, salary. I know we have some changes that will be coming up just based on when some people have decided or that are planning on retiring. And I think that is going to significantly change that formula. So I have it in here as 0 at the moment, but it will likely change. I don't know if you have anything on that, but.
Yeah, I mean, we're likely going from a part-time public defender to a full-time public defender with these changes. So that's going to significantly change this formula and what that looks like. We're trying to understand the timing of a couple of these things. So with that, we're just, again, we don't want to put numbers in there that we don't know of yet, so.
Yeah, and we're planning on having, sitting down with everybody, clarifying what the timing is going to be, so that we can do a better job of estimating that amount. So it won't be 0, but it's, yeah. And I mean, and that changing from part-time to full-time is going to change the formula as well. Because that public defender salary, I believe, is also set by the state of Illinois based off of the state's attorneys.
And based on how we have the public defender listed as part-time, that's how the state then reimburses or calculates their reimbursement. If you go to full-time, they change that formula and that reimbursement. So, that's part of what we got to figure out what we're doing first before you can put a number in there. So we'll go from there.
Well, do they take more of that away from us somewhere else or not? I mean, that's a typical thing.
Again,
I'm not
most-
trying to be smart ass, but.
No, but most of those reimbursements, I mean, they don't pull it out of thin air.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't want to say for 100%, yeah, it comes right out of what you're already getting somewhere else. But
Okay.
for as Jim pointed out of the PPRT, for the most part, those reimbursements come out of that pool.
Okay.
So if you change your formula and you change your value, yeah, it's going to change that value there. And then you make it up over here,
It
but
probably won't be dollar for dollar though.
probably not. Probably not.
Thank you.
But no, significant changes from what we had budgeted in the past for, what we're getting.
We'll see this again, but one line I'd point out there, Jason, and for the benefit of Ryan, if you look at the state of Illinois reimbursement of probation, you've got plugged in 545.
Yeah.
Probation is always kind of considered a wash, kind of, sorta. And they have, that's kind of a revolving. So, I don't know, what at the end of the day was our action? You guys, can you answer?
Some individuals are reimbursed at 100% of their wages, and I think there's a few individuals that are less than 100% reimbursed, but
Yeah.
a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say we're probably getting close to 88 to 90% of the cost we're getting reimbursed from the state. I mean, one that I do know of is only getting reimbursed at $1,000 a month. So that's a significantly less than what they're making, but, well, I won't say significant, but it is, it is a difference. And then the only other one that we are not getting a full reimbursement would be Stacy's salary.
And
Though it's close, but it doesn't cover the full.
But I would also say that that is strictly salary, it doesn't cover like
Yes.
our employer cost, right? So FICA is on us, IMRF is on us. Obviously, if they take
All
health
the
insurance, right?
All the
and-
expenses, correct.
Yeah.
All the expenses that go along with having an office.
And employee, yeah.
Right.
And then Stacy also has proprietary funds, and we'll go through all this when we get to her area, but.
Correct.
She's one of those departments that we pay attention, we go through the same question with Stacy, and, but at the same time, we always kind of keep in mind that almost all that's a wash for us, so.
The dispatch fees here, a portion of that, if not all of it, is going to be what we were referencing with the cell phone bills, right? Some of that comes back to us to help defray our costs of the employees that we have or the telecommunicators for 911, as well as what is in there is 911's fees or our cost sharing essentially for the services that 911 provides to some of our other municipalities in terms of dispatching. So that's kind of what makes up that and what,
Cell phone fees, you said?
the tax on your cell phone bill,
Yes.
right? That's where that line item
That directly goes to that line item?
I'm gonna, not directly, it goes to 911. 911 has their own board. They determine annually, because we provide all of the employees for 911, they kind of calculate a portion that says, hey, here's what 911 can help defray the costs of those employees. They get the fee, it's their, they just don't have the employees. So if all of those telecommunicators were within 911 and they were not Lee County employees anymore, they wouldn't get enough in those fees from the cell phone bills, that tax to operate. That's why they are Lee County employees. And because there's then only 2 employees, now they do have slightly extra money and so they cost share with us.
And the
because
cell
they're
phone fees are
employees.
from people who live in Lee County, who owns cell phones.
I
I'm
would
not
say
sure.
Shelley would be a better person to ask how that's all broken up, but I think that they get there's like stuff taken off the top again, and then it gets distributed, pooled out.
Look at your cell phone bill.
And I
there's
know
all kinds
that,
of taxes.
and I know that certain, like Cook County is different. Cook County charges something completely different than what everybody else has. And I believe, Shelley can speak more to this, but I believe they are lobbying to get the amount increased because it hasn't increased since like 1996 or something like that.
From the
So,
beginning.
yeah. So, and actually it used to be, I think, more, and they reduced it in the 90s, and they haven't changed the amount that they're charging for that. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the E911 surcharge is like 3% statewide. And then that comes back based on, again, I think it's a population calculation that comes back to specific 911 ETSB centers or 911 centers. Chicago does have its own prepaid surcharge. I don't know what that is. That's on top
I
of
think
it.
it's like double what in total, what they get, double what ours is.
right? But I do know that Shelley, along with other directors, are really lobbying legislators to make a change to that and increase that due to the increases of costs across the board, and the needs of different centers throughout the state, really. But again, that's been, I think, effective since like 2015 or somewhere around there. So it's due.
It's last on here, is our other income. Probably the
No,
majority,
not- That's expensive.
oops.
Looked like you had it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. There you
Need my mouse.
go. Yeah.
Majority of that's gonna be interest income. I believe, we've been relatively conservative last year in terms of our estimated amount. I think the Fed was predicting more rate drops than they actually had. I think the current thought is that there's gonna be 2 rate reductions in 2026,
And
calendar
maybe a
year
new
2026.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Maybe.
possibly that, so, maybe, who knows? But, I think we're probably, close. I think, I know that this number's gonna go up because we're gonna start doing our property tax disbursements, right? We're gonna have larger monies in our coffers to earn interest on, so. Not, I guess, a whole lot going on in the other income other than, the big one is the interest income. If we head
Now,
back.
is that all of our interest,
That's the county general
general.
interest, yes.
county general?
Yeah.
So the interest that is made by proprietary funds and
Generally,
whatnot,
they go
that-
back to the proprietary
Very
fund
fun.
unless there's like something very specific that says, no, it doesn't go there. Like, I believe the probation services,
Yeah, well, like here, I'll give you an example, ARPA that I know for sure, right? So ARPA, we had outside of the county general. Any interest we earned on that could and did go to county
Right.
general. But yeah, proprietary funds, basically by state statute say you have to send that back to, any interest they earn, they get to keep. Yeah,
unless called out specifically in the statute, right?
Yes.
And I know of the probation service and basically says any interests of,
Can
on
be
this
used.
can go to county general. So,
yeah.
that would be in that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Does the county own anything in the way of land or buildings that they get rent from?
We do have, no. I mean, we have
Yeah.
properties. We do not, we
We don't we don't
don't
rent.
lease anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've got, it's very insignificant dollars, like best.
I mean,
You
The only rent income that we have is Best here that I'm aware of. Other than that,
Is
there's a
what?
Best Inc.
Business.
Business Employment Services. They do a great job. They've been here for 15 plus
I
years.
mean, they're in the
think.
building here?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
they lease space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just
at least
lease.
2 office spaces here.
But you have no assets outside of here.
We do, but we do not lease anything.
Nothing that we'd get rent off of.
Costs us money. Use that, build that building. That's probably one of the main ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's outside, or that somebody outside of through county employment is using, right? Other than that, the buildings or the assets that we have are for county operation.
Right. And that would, here across the street, Highway Department, Animal Control and the jail, food pantry.
theoretically, we do charge the health department rental space. But they are also an entity within.
Within the county, so
Yeah.
it's a
It's a
wash.
really a way, there's basically statute that says that you can charge them rent because they would have to otherwise get rent, and it's a way of releasing restriction on restricted revenue that they have.
Right.
So, that's the only.
And so, you know, and Ryan, you know, we do have an option on property for a future highway department, new highway department
To
facility.
build a new facility.
But we haven't purchased that as yet, but that is in our capital budget.
So, I don't know, I guess any questions on the stuff that we've gone over in what's listed? I guess what is not in these numbers? So, our solid waste fund, in the past, we've generated, we have a ordinance or resolution, I say ordinance, saying we need to keep a certain dollar amount within our solid waste fund to pay for any remediation or any issues that we have within the facility that we have. Anything above and beyond that we get every year can be moved to county general. I think what we've budgeted this year is 450,000 of excess. I would say that that's probably a pretty good number for next year as well. I don't see anything that's going to change that, make it go up a lot, make it go down a lot. That is not in here. That would be a transfer out of that fund to our county general.
How many years do you have left on the landfill?
Do you know that? I don't know off the top.
It's obviously not next year, though.
No. Another one, that is newer, is going to be new for FY '26 is, the public safety fund, where we have, public safety tax, right? That was put in place to fund the new LEC,
LEC.
law enforcement center. Tested me on that one. No, so we have, there, with the building of that project, there was an interfund loan that the capital repair and replacement fund loaned, that public safety fund some additional monies to, I believe, I think it was to purchase like furniture and equipment. That was a little bit before I was here, but, that fund or that interfund loan, there will be enough revenue generated within that public safety fund to pay off the remaining balance of that interfund loan this year, which I believe is like 10 years ahead of schedule of what was originally anticipated. So we are well above that payment schedule. I mean, I think the takeaway from that is the public safety tax is generating more revenue than
That was the half,
initially.
it was the half-cent tax that was passed?
Correct.
To build it,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Correct, correct.
That is generating more revenue than maybe initially anticipated.
Just
So-
as an aside here,
Yeah.
I had a little sidebar with Tom. And this just pointing out the turnover that we've had for the folks in this room. Paul and Tom are the only ones that were around for the discussion and the passage of the jail referendum and putting that in place. So it just goes to show, you know, the reason why we go through and review a lot of stuff and for the benefit, and it's because we've had a lot of turnover. And, you know, it's important that we go through this stuff. So, anyway.
So,
Sorry.
no, that's good. So there's the balance remaining as of right now is $615,000 in that interfund loan. That fund is going to generate enough revenue to pay our bond payments, which are relatively close to $1 million a year. They're a little more than that, but
How long's the bond?
there's
There's-
two separate bonds. One is coming due in 2029, but has a balloon payment of, I think like 3.4,
Yeah.
3.5 million.
Roughly a little over 3.
Yeah. And then the remaining bonds will be paid off in 2037. So I guess,
In the interest rate?
A little over 3, just like 3.1, 3.2 right now, because those were
Mhm.
Those were taken in 17 and 18. Obviously, we don't want to pay. Yeah, we don't want to pay those off. The real question, I think. Well, yeah, I think the real question I think that Reed's gonna probably bring
Times
up
both.
is, we're gonna pay off these interfund loans in 2025, which means if we're consistent in our sales tax in 2026, we will have enough excess revenue to use to offset public safety operations, some, not all of it. Or you've got a balloon payment of 3 point whatever coming in 2.5, 3 years, a little over 4 years. What are you gonna do, right? Are you gonna gamble and say rates are gonna go down by 29? Or do you save that money to pay that off? Because you don't want to pay it off early if rates are still high. I mean, these are questions you guys are gonna have to come up with, but we're just trying to give you the dollar or the numbers that just say, hey, you've got a decision to make.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't predict what rates are gonna be in 2029. But if it matured tomorrow, our payment would probably double be where rates are now. And so that's gonna eat up what that public safety tax generates, and it's gonna go to a bond payment, there's gonna be less.
Well, of course,
And
that depends on what term you choose to use too.
right. So, I think it's something that we need to start thinking about, and just, if our intentions are to save up to, be able to make that balloon payment in 2029, there still could be excess public safety funds generated that could defray some expenses that are public safety in nature, but it's gonna be less, right? But then, plus side, 2029, then significantly larger portion of that public safety money coming in is now available because you don't have that bond anymore and you're not making that payment. All just things to consider. I think theoretically, if things are consistent, next year, we're talking about $750,000, $800,000 of public safety tax that is no longer being used to either pay the bonds or pay off that interfund loan. So we gotta decide what we want to do with it. But that is not in those numbers there, so.
What's the balance of the bond?
Well, one has a little over 3 that's coming due. That's the balloon. The other one, as of this year, is slightly over 7, maybe 8, little, because it's still got 12 years worth of payments. So obviously these first 5, 6 years has been more interest than it is principal, but we're going to start hitting the principal hard with our payments. So the one bond, we're basically paying interest on it, is all we're doing right now. We're paying maybe 50,000 a year in principal, maybe not even that. The other one, it's paying both interest and principal. But it's also a 20-year bond. So.
We've been very fortunate though, because if you remember, we had a survey done right after we built that jail. And they told us that the income was gonna continue to decrease. And by this point, we're worried about having money to make payments. So we've been very fortunate that it's gone the other way, and we've have that excess revenue.
I think when we first started that, it was, hey, if you can consistently get about $90,000 a month in sales tax, you'll cover your cost of the bond. We, in the last year or 2, I think we've consistently had about 140 to 150,000 in sales tax revenue. So that's what's been able to pay off our interfund loan faster than anticipated. But,
Yeah, our current balance is a little less than 10 million.
yeah.
And Is the jail full? Is it
No.
possible we could have Lee County Alcatraz?
No.
I mean, that, didn't they, in Ogle County, when they built their jail, they built it with the idea that there was gonna be a lot of immigration inmates.
Right, and Ogle County still does house some federal inmates with criminal charges, but then there's that Trust Act and the CARES Act that we cannot, any law enforcement agency within the state of Illinois cannot house an immigration detainee
Because we're a sanctuary state?
because we're a sanctuary state.
Go.
But I also think, Clay, you probably seen it, with the Safety Act, right? We were consistently probably over 50 some, guests, a day or a month, clients a month, we're in the 30s now.
Yes.
Or less.
When I first came on board, we were right around 55
Yeah.
daily population, and now we're like, today's was 30,
Yeah. So,
And you can house how many?
96.
but again, that was more state legislation pushing for the Safety Act that said, hey, you can't keep these people in jail. Well, okay, but we've got a facility that'll hold 90 some people, but now you're only allowing us to, well, based
Right.
on the parameters that they can be there, it's now 30.
It requires the same staff.
That's the key, is that our staff requirements they don't go down with population going down. We could go down to 5 and we'd still have to maintain staff.
For a while there, Bureau County, I think they had single digits as far as inmates.
But you can't take federal prisoners and get compensated.
We can take federal criminally charged, but you have to go through I looked at it and you have to go through a staffing study, and it costs the county like 40 to 50,000 to show this study to the federal government. And right now, in talking with Ogle County, they're not getting a good return on their investment. I think they've only got 10 federals.
The other
And I
problem-
think that their rate of reimbursement is like $55 a day.
Don't they have like 150 beds or something crazy like that?
They definitely have more than we do, yes.
The other problem we looked at way back was if we took like people from Cook County, you don't get the best prisoners. So now you're tearing our jail up to try and make money, and it just.
I believe
becomes-
Bureau County was in the process here as of like the last 2 months, was looking into that option. But yeah, they're not going to send the model inmates to your facility, so.
What? No?
That may be a discussion that we will have to have in the future if trends continues. You know, that's something that we may be forced to look at.
Well, there was something in the news yesterday about a legislator in Springfield wanting to rescind the Safety Act. I don't know if anybody's going to that's going to gain any traction, but there's at least talk about it. Or at least amending it somehow.
Yeah. With the makeup of this General Assembly.
Jason, if you went back, I don't know your feeling on that Safety Act, but if you went back and looked at Clay's reports for the last 12 months, there's absolutely nothing to it. I don't mean that literally, but to show you how the Safety Act doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, month after month, he sends these out and they arrest these people and release them and arrest them. And I know that the guy from Dubuque that wrecked a stolen car, I know he'll come back from court. I'm sure he did, right? Came right back and said, here I am. I mean,
I'll have to look. I don't know.
Or the guy, or the so-called gentleman from Minnesota will definitely come back, make the trip back down to Lee County.
Well, the wrong thing has to happen to the wrong legislator for something to change.
Yes. But even, you know, you had the other day, it was all over the news, that illegal, that decapitated the woman.
Yeah.
And was released. Now, I didn't see in the news article there had to be more to the story than what was in the article of why that went about. And if Charlie was here, he probably could explain it, but, you know, craziness. So, Any questions on the revenue side? We probably should touch base, give the overview on where we're at as far as expenses versus revenues, what we're looking at. We got to scare everybody before we adjourn the meeting, guys.
Yeah.
So,
That's the goal of this meeting, right?
So, yes, to preface the scaring, right? We can look at where we are in county general. But we've basically just taken everybody's asks, right? And put them in there and done not a whole lot of evaluating.
Well,
And for-
we've done a lot of
looked at it, but
evaluating
we haven't
internally.
changed
We
any
haven't
of the
started
numbers.
changing anything or talking with department heads.
Yeah.
I mean, we've started talking with
Sorry.
department heads, but we haven't made adjustments. This is all coming from their requests, the drafts that came in. And this is the blanket look.
And have we added in like healthcare costs, FICA costs?
I
Yes.
think we started putting in those costs.
I mean, to be
Yeah.
fair to this committee and to what you're going to see, right? Because a lot of the department heads don't necessarily know how to do their healthcare costs or
And-
FICA costs,
And
right?
Reed and you guys typically calculate that out and we put that
Okay,
in the
I just
budget.
wanted
Yeah.
to make sure, that they saw that.
Do we have any
Okay,
contracts, do we have any contracts to negotiate this year?
We'll be negotiating in 2026 for 27.
Okay.
So right now, there's about a 1.5 difference. I guess what I would also say is, those transfers that we just got done talking about, right? Those aren't in there. This is a very similar number to where we were at last year, right? On the initial look. So, we were able to come to a balanced budget then too, but that's kind of high level where we're at right at the moment. We're 1.5 million short from asks to anticipated revenue. Yeah.
if nothing else, we're consistent.
Yeah.
You guys found $1 million last year.
Are you leaving for vacation?
I'm leaving tomorrow, so get busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if there's a certain area you want to look at, from the expense side, but, we will continue to refine these numbers and these will be areas to discuss further when we have the individual department heads in to discuss certain items. But I don't know if there's an area you want to look at.
I really don't. If there's anybody of the committee that wants to look at a specific thing, because we are going to be.
Yeah, we're going to be going over this in the other meetings. I
Right.
mean, but I think what you were trying to convey is, hey, guys, we're in a position again where we're short.
Right.
Yeah, we've got some work to do and,
Do we want to run through capital at all right at this point?
I don't know if we're prepared to run through capital, to be honest with you. We
Okay.
still have to sit down and meet with facilities,
Gotcha.
work through a couple things and try to really strategize priorities for a couple year plan.
So, yeah, so keep in mind that capital is kind of the next layer on top of this, after we get the budget done, we got to take a look at capital and what we're going to plan on. There's different ideas that we've kind of kicked around as far as putting whether you want to call it a cap or a limit of what we're going to allow for capital spending moving forward.
and you may be locked into that no matter what anyway, based on the resolution of, we're asking for a 90-day reserve just in case you run into worst
60
case.
days.
Is it
I always
60?
used to say 92, but it's actually 60.
Okay.
So,
I was thinking, okay.
yeah.
But either way, you've got a reserve that basically locks up your capital. Call it the rainy day, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, there's a reserve that we want to hold and we've got a resolution on it such that if we ever ran into a huge problem, we'd have money to be able to pay operational side of it for at least those 60 days until we could try to find a way to claw back out of it, so.
Do you have a long-term capital plan?
Yeah, so that's what we're developing.
Yeah.
So we do, based around facilities. And that's, so
Yeah, yeah.
that, which is where our capital funds typically go to.
So Jason, when Paula came on, she was doing, I think for the first time at that time, was doing 5-year projections. And of course, those scared you to death because it showed that we were running out of capital dollars. Now, this is before we put in the resolution for the 60 days. It was showing that by year 3.
Yes.
So that was,
Yes.
so we should be out of money 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
But again, and that was with the assumption that what we allocate for capital in terms of spend and in terms of like building maintenances were being spent in those years. What we have found and see is sometimes what we anticipate to spend gets pushed back a year
Yeah.
or two.
We put the like full project cost in year when it starts, and that's probably not
Yeah.
where all of the
Right.
expenses come from, right? It takes multi-years. I mean, and then another thing is to talk about, hey, we future projected that we run out in 3 years and we didn't. Well, you also have to remember we got ARPA money in the middle of there
Yeah.
of $6 million that it didn't just go straight to capital, right? But you got to use ARPA money on things that you might have otherwise been using capital project money for.
Right.
So that inflated the
Kicked it
balance
down the
over,
road.
kicked
Yeah.
it down the road.
Well, it was 6.6 million. Of that 6.6, more than half was spent on capital projects. I mean, we did send it, we used it in the community as well. We had a lot of projects that went out to different businesses and everything like that. But when you look at, say, 3 or 4 million of that being spent versus what, if it wasn't there, had we spent it in capital,
Oh,
we'd be down to
we would be.
the 4 million. We'd be right now. I think our capital balance is maybe 8.
8 or 9 million.
So
Well, the
you'd be
HVAC
at 4
system-
million.
Yeah,
So-
and that's the thing.
By
The
itself.
HVAC
Yeah.
project cost 4.25 million, right?
And we
So-
spent 2 million out
And
of
that's just
ARPA on
one
that.
building. How many buildings do we have? If
Right.
something goes wrong, you need a pretty substantial amount of money in that capital budget to
Yeah.
be able to
Either that
make
or
it so the
you're-
building is running.
And that's the thing,
Or
a
you're
lot of
borrowing.
our capital budget is tied up into our facilities and out of necessity.
Those buildings that
Other
are
pieces of
20,
that
30 years
are
old.
yearly requests by departments. Like for squad purchases or, what coming up this year, we have $1 million plus set aside for our, for the circuit clerks,
System.
for the new case management system. So there are things that we can foresee, and then that's what we try to plan for. And then there are other things that just come out of the woodwork and all of a sudden, the wall, right, the retaining wall, right,
Yeah.
is one of them. So right now with our facilities group, we are working on a capital plan prioritizing the projects that we know of and can foresee in the future for hopefully 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, those asks just come in during budget time from our different department heads for requests for, changes within the operation.
And ideally, those would be requests that are a single expense in nature, not an ongoing expense, right? Because capital doesn't, the only way the capital fund replenishes any balance is by having excess general fund revenues at the end of the year over our expenses. And last year, we basically, to make the budget work, we had to plan on a $200,000 pull from capital. So last year, when we did our budget, we did not anticipate there being any excess general fund revenues over expenses. So that's, something to consider. There's not an easy way of replenishing that capital fund balance other than you got to keep your expenses below your revenues.
Right. I guess, scare beyond the $1.5 million, when you look at, especially just adding in the case management system upgrade, that's 1.5. we've set aside out of capital one. So there's $500,000 there that is going to come out of capital that now we're going to try to break that up and hopefully we're able to pay that in pieces. So part of that will be in this year's budget, some will be in next year's budget, but I'm not sure how that's going to play
That's,
out.
and that's how, I mean, right now that is how it's playing out schedule wise. So we'll assume that a small portion will come out of this fiscal year. The most significant amount will come out next fiscal year. And then we'll have some more coming into FY '27.
But the issue with that is that as we pay for those things, we're not adding to our reserve. So once that money's gone, it's gone. And until we get to the point of a positive revenue situation where we can start putting some of that money back to get to that, whatever that level is we want to be comfortable with. So it's a challenge.
So we continue to do the 5-year plan?
Yeah, that's what we're working to.
Yeah.
I think last year we tried to do at least 3 years. look
Yeah, I
out.
think we looked 3 years out.
We
5 years almost gets to the point of, it's different, the capital 5-year lookout for maintenance, there's things that you can really anticipate. For in the general fund, in county general, it's harder because things happen there that you can't really anticipate. What's 70%, 73% of our total expenditures is payroll, it's people. Okay, tell me where are we going to be in the FOP contract in 5 years? Well, that's 2 contract periods. So those are kind of hard to, you can plug in some numbers to that, but
But we'll be able to review that.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
data
yeah.
as
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going
Oh,
through
yeah.
this,
Yeah,
and
there'll
we'll
be a
able
day
to-
where we
yeah.
look at the capital budget by itself.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then my last question, because I know we're talking about obviously department heads bringing us the expenses, but I'm assuming they're also empowered to look at how they can increase revenue?
Yeah.
Is that part of the discussions as well?
Yeah,
Okay, just want to
absolutely.
make sure, because I don't.
And maybe
always
cut
hear-
costs?
Well, obviously, yeah. Yeah.
Always part of the discussion.
Probably the major focus of the
Yeah.
discussion.
Do you guys have anything else for the committee for right now? Chairman? Committee, do you have any questions that you have? Okay, Clay, do you have anything
No,
you
sir.
want to talk about?
Nope.
All right, I didn't actually finish when I started and going through our schedule. So if you look at our schedule, we've got, pretty tough week, that first week of August, where we're going through all the departments. And then
So,
we've
I
got,
don't have that in front of me, but I've got Monday, the 4th at 7:00.
yes, well, that's, no, social services, Monday at 7 PM, the 5th
Monday is.
of
not
August.
renewed.
No,
No, that's another Monday.
no,
Okay,
that's
fine.
Tuesday,
I've got it.
Monday, 7:00,
Social service.
social services.
This coming Monday?
Monday, the
No,
4th, the
Yeah,
4th of
okay.
August.
Okay, you're a week
is that the
late.
4th? This
Yeah.
is showing, Becky. This is reading August 5th. Oh, I got the old one. Never mind.
It's
How'd I do that?
It's right up there on.
What did I get? I thought for sure I put 25 in there.
Budget hearings for social.
Oh,
That's
for
why I
Pete's
thought we should
sakes.
review it.
I was so confident that I had 25
There
in
you
there.
go. There you go. There you go.
There it
There you go.
is, August
There you go.
4th.
Yeah.
Fifth is the-
At 9 a.m.
Okay, so as you can see, we'll get down to, yeah. And then Tuesday, the 26th, that's when we'll have to make some hard decisions. And then the next month, that's from that meeting on the 26th is, the guys will start putting together the full budget and the preliminary levy. And
It's gonna fly by.
It will. We will blink and it'll be, so, yeah. All righty. And I'll make sure the chairman has his proper calendar in his phone and in his portfolio. Jeepers.
Okay,
I just want to make sure my phone is
Oh,
consistent.
all right.
All right. Yeah, okay, I'm starting to lose the meeting now. Okay.
I motion we adjourn.
No, I'm looking, he can't. He can't. Okay, if there isn't any other thing good for the cause, we will see everybody Monday on the 4th of August at 7 o'clock in here, so, okay. What, pardon me?
Do we know about how long that usually runs?
Hour and a half,
Okay. so
yeah.
I just heard him say, bring your sleeping bag. I just wanted to be.
No,
I want to be
no.
mentally prepared.
Yeah, and I think we're going to,
Oh,
and we're
that
also
part.
going to-
Oh, I get you.
so,
Okay.
so this year you're gonna get the presentations and we'll have some people on Zoom and we'll have some people here live and we hear about the whole thing. Next year, and you guys think about this as we go through this, you know, we spend a lot of time for actually not a lot of money. It's about roughly about $100,000 that we allocate through social services. And, you know, is this something that we can think about the process of what we're doing? No. Yes, correct, correct.
Yes. And that, yeah, I mean, just to clarify, like, that's one, everything you're gonna hear about that night is just one line in our budget.
Right.
They're probably gonna go into a lot more detail, but it all just kind of hits one line. And it's historically been
So,
90 or
and
100,000.
kind of what I'm thinking is we can make a lot of these decisions, because if you look historically, we'll tweak, we don't change. And, so, you know, can we accomplish the same thing by having them present us with a report that we can read? And if there's specific questions that we can have about their program, you know, we can ask it, you know, we just need to figure something else out.
Do we have any new ones this year?
So,
Are there anybody new asking for money for social? 'Cause I really think we need to seriously look. I know it's not a lot of money, as you say, but it goes to good places. I think we need to look at some of them, if we can do something to wean some of them off to where we don't support them as much as we have for the years, and see if we can help them try to help themselves. So it is more available to some new agency comes along that really needs something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So,
And we'll get that data ahead of that meeting.
pardon me?
We will get that in our packets, what they're presenting ahead of the meeting.
Yeah, yeah, if, yeah.
Usually have their stuff here.
Yeah, usually they either have it on hard copy or it'll be on onboard.
It'll
So,
be in there. Okay, I know there was
The week of
something.
September 29th,
I'll
it
try.
doesn't give you a breakdown on what happens the week of September 29th.
Okay.
I'll get with
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
so
not-
that's not us, that's not
That's-
meetings for
They're
us,
creating the budget.
right?
Right, finance is 9 AM on 16th.
So,
That's regular. committee.
yeah, and that's regular committee means that that will present the actual budget and talk about it both in through the process. So,
Do you root in December?
oh, yeah, yep. So, okay, all
Right,
right.
it's not on the calendar.
We haven't adjourned yet, not officially. So I have a motion by Kitson, seconded by Naylor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carried. And thank you for everybody's attendance and attention.